What up? What up? What up? This Ibn Webb, Ib Webb, Karan Sum here. Another official thanks thing going down here. Got Essex County all day edition here. Boy, am I honored to have this gentleman coming on here. Mike Brown, for those in the know here. Professional career expanded from the NBA overseas, what have you here, damn near 20 years, as far as professionally here. But like I said, I just speechless just because, like I said, I'm just taken back by folks willing to jump on, just share their world a little bit here. So I'm just gonna be quiet and let Mr. Brown get on, and we're gonna do what it do. Hold tight. I appreciate it.
All right, how you doing?
Not bad. Yourself. Pleasure to and an honor to meet you, sir. Here, I mean, again, being a Jersey guy, like I said, I'm familiar as far as who you are and what you've done and everything else here. So like I said, I'm very, very appreciative. You don't know how appreciative of this I am. So thank you for taking the time out.
Oh, no problem, man. I appreciate it. I know it's been a while. It's been in the process, and I'm glad we're finally able to do it.
No, definitely. I mean, life is crazy. So I understand, everything going on. First and foremost, again, hopefully you're well, family well, everybody's doing all right, navigating through this world of ours.
Oh, yeah. Everything is good, man. I can't complain.
Nah, definitely. And as we talked briefly, I know beforehand, again, what I've been doing with this is it's just been one of those things as far as I picked it up on the fly. I was just like, you know what, let me just, do something here, reach out to people, what have you here, and it starts snowballing in regards to just connecting with people back, from New Jersey, Essex County in particular. But this is for any and everybody. But I know I do a little segment where it just kind of hone in on, those around Essex County area, and yourself being a native from there. Again, stuff that you've done. Again, like I said, it was only right that I try to flag you down here.
Okay, that's good. I just put the light on. Is that
I see that? I noticed that. No, you good. You
Okay.
gotta make sure you good. You gotta make sure you good here. So
right.
Even with all that said, we're gonna take it back a little bit here. Like as far as you born Newark, East Orange, you was where were you born at?
Born in Newark, right down in Central Ward, Newark, and went to Blessed Sacrament Elementary School up on Clinton Avenue.
Okay.
And
exactly
so yeah, had my whole time there, really got into the ball or into all the sports, down in Newark, and then playing at the Boys and Girls Club, down there, Central Ward Boys and Girls Club.
Mm-hmm. Now, that's only sibling?
Yeah, only child. I ate too much. They couldn't afford another.
Yeah, you said playing down there in Newark in that area here, as far as was sports, any other activities was your thing here, or was it just mainly just sports?
Well, you know what, just growing up there, you just played everything going along with the season. So in the spring, I played baseball. In the fall, I'm playing the football, and then, playing basketball indoors. And first organized stuff was really kind of down at the Boys and Girls Club. I just always played, outside on the blacktop, and, was pretty good athlete, but really didn't know rules of all the games.
Yes.
And so the Boys Club actually gave me the first opportunity to learn the rules. Okay. And to get out there and not just, on the sports day on the ball side, but join the chess club, did a little track and field at the Boys Club, did swimming at the Boys Club. So, in reality, once I became a pro, I still did things with the Boys and Girls Clubs back in Central Ward and in different states, because it was an opportunity that really gave me an outlet and kept me off the streets. That every day I was up in the Boys and Girls Club. I remember scraping my little money together because it was $3 for the membership for the month. And so Mom hit me up the first time, with it. Then when I had to come back, I'm going to the piggy bank. So, the Boys and Girls Club was, definitely safer for me.
Now, I think you and a lot of us here, like whether it's the Boys and Girls Club, the Y, just kind of like to your point here, just being around folks that's doing something constructive and not necessarily running them streets or what have you. Then and then the foundation that it just set, it sounded like moving forward, with your life or what have you here. Then even playing organized ball here, and so you get to finding out you ultimately just wound up just playing basketball. I mean, did you play football, baseball, organized
Oh
too?
yeah, actually, pitched in football. I mean, I'm sorry, pitched in baseball, center field. Because growing up, I had an arm,
Okay.
so I was able to throw. You know, what I mean, it was crazy back there. Growing up in Newark, we used to get to one end of the playground, pick your team, get other half on the other, and we used to have rock fights. So I mean, it was crazy. We throwing rocks at each other. So my arm developed, right? And so baseball, pitch, center field. And then football, quarterback, played a little, middle linebacker, and then basketball, just went out there and played from playing 21 rough to 5-2 to around the world, all these games you just did, just trying to make the ball go in the basket. And it just happened to be when I was 8th grade at Blessed Sacrament, we was playing basketball, we won the championship. And the feeling I had of, jumping around with my teammates, the cheerleaders, that victory, I was like, I really like this. It was a great feeling. And I went to St. Benedict's when I was my freshman year, and they didn't have a football team anymore. Okay. So I was just playing basketball. Otherwise, I probably would have played football in high school too, not necessarily on the varsity level, but I probably would have played it, my first or second year.
Nah, interesting. Let's back up quarterback, huh?
Oh yeah. Get that. I had the arm, man.
Okay.
I'm going. You're going deep. If you could get out there, I'm gonna find you.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. And
Nah.
I tell you, what's crazy on that too. As I started growing, I was so much taller. And, then now I'm bending down on that quarterback. I was like, oh, this is crazy. My back hurt. And I'm like, shoot, they hit the center and I'm a fall backwards. So I was like, it was a good thing that the high school actually I went to had already stopped their football program.
And you went, so Benedict's, was that your preference or was that your parents' preference?
Well, I tell you, went to, had mentioned Blessed Sacrament. So I knew I was probably going to Essex Catholic.
Okay.
Seton Hall Prep, or Benedict's. And Seton Hall Prep was almost like double the price of St. Benedict's.
Okay.
And Benedict's is now down the street. I could walk to school. My mom went down, was able to do some things, activity like the bingo, the cake sales, the raffles, in order to supplement the tuition there. And going to Seton Hall, I would have had caught the bus, every day. And so Benedict's just worked out really well. And first time also going to a situation that it was all boys. And small school. Matter of fact, my class had kind of the biggest class entering in, and it was 66 kids. So it was, small atmosphere, real, focus on developing young men, the education on, in the classroom, out of the classroom. So it was a good fit for me to start off.
Now, interesting you say that. I mean, as far as even being at Benedict's, now entering high school, how tall were you entering high school, remember?
Oh, yeah. Going into Benedict's, I was 6'3".
Okay.
Yeah, so, I kind of grew, really, I never had a growth spurt. I just kind of grew 2 inches kind of every year from about 11, 12. It was just kind of during the course of the year, 1.5 inches, 2 inches every year. Yeah, and so when I went into Benedict's, I was 6'3", and graduating Blessed Sacrament 6'1", and so that's how I was at Benedict's.
Even being at Benedict's, did you? I know back when, or even certain times here playing varsity here. Did you play varsity right away, or was it?
Oh no, I was one of those late bloomers.
Okay.
What it was, I just at home I played all the sports, so I was an athlete. Able to pick up things and play. And again, kind of mentioned not knowing like all the official kind of rules. I'm learning this. So I was behind, I had the height, I could score, make a layup, make a jump shot. And so at Benedict's, I was on the freshman team.
Okay.
So we had a freshman team. And And again, too, it's nothing to where I knew I should have been on the freshman team.
Okay.
So, nothing there, the animosity. No, I knew I should have been on the freshman team. And on that team, we got better. We were really good. We won the kind of like West Side Park whole league. It was they was hosting, and we won the whole freshman tournament. So we knew we were going to, if we stuck together, we was going to be pretty decent because we had good size across the front line, had a good point guard, and we had a good team with a lot of potential.
How'd you see yourself as far as, if you could think back when, like, wow, am I getting better? Am I coming along? Am I, progressing? Did you see yourself progressing?
Oh yeah, yes, I did. And, I saw myself getting better from like kind of like month to month.
Okay.
Because I love basketball. I enjoyed it. So I put the extra time in to get better. So I just, I played, I learned, we won. I enjoyed, by being the only child, I enjoyed the camaraderie. The fact of having a team and, being around the guys, we're able to talk about, things, your grades or your tests or home or, those type of things, and also sports. So it was a great addition, in my life. So I really enjoyed it. But funny, we talk about, Benedict's and the success that we were looking forward to as this freshman team. And that was my first time in my life to kind of experience a little tragedy in that, is because with my team, we had a little point guard and really good little guy, 5'9", fast, and we ended up at St. Benedict's. We had to also mandatory do a little summer school. So and for summer school, we only went half a days. So we went half a days. They kept you busy, and it was about a 3-week period, kind of a crash course that because Catholic school has always gotten out of school earlier than public.
Right.
Sometime 2 to 3 weeks. So at Benedict's, they was like, you're right in Newark. We'd rather have a little summer school for that 3-week period rather than having guys just home doing nothing and their friends are also in school.
Yes.
So it's a way to occupy. So we had that. So we're going, and little point guard ended up the last day of summer school. He wants to ditch. And we only go for half a day.
Yeah.
And the reason was he got a new bike. It was his birthday, I think it was. He got a bike, back to 10-speed, the racing kind of bike, 10-speed with the curl handles.
With the curls, yeah.
So he got a bike, and so he says, I'm a ditch, I'm gonna ride my bike. So at the end, he ends up riding his bike, and right where you have 280 going up the hill, you got the 2 roads on the side that you could actually ride alongside of 280.
Right.
Going in any direction, if you're going north, make the turn, get off on Main Street, that type of thing. But anyway, he's riding there. So instead of getting off the bike, walking it across, he wants to ride across. Car hits him, sends him up in the air, lands on the hood, ends up breaking his back. And so now he ended up, being handicapped, not in a wheelchair, but never was able to, to run again. So he was never able to play. So that was my first thing at like 14 years old, and I'm thinking, I just saw him the day before. And now I'm going to the hospital when we were finally able to get into the hospital, being kids, to see him and not immediate family, to be able to see him there. And, it was just a lot because I'm seeing him one way laid up in the bed, kind of tubes. And I just saw him in class. So at 14, that was, the first kind of experience. And I'm like, well, man, things aren't going to be the same anymore as our team. And I'm like, it's really not going to be the same for him. So I'm thinking about that. Then I small forward. later on, probably 2-3 months later, the small forward is over our power forward's house, and the power forward gives me a call. He gives me a call, and he's like crying and panicking. I'm like, yo, what's wrong? He gives me a call. The small forward was over his house. They sitting at the kitchen table, having a, Twinkie, cupcake, milk, that type thing. He lays his head down. He had an aneurysm and died.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh my goodness. I said, Randy, and it was just kind of mind blowing. So then now I'm going to that funeral. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to that funeral as a team and, as a school also. So this all happened in like a 2-3 month period. And this was actually affecting me, not just being a classmate, is actually a teammate. Mm-hmm. So, that happened. And then Benedict's another, story that I actually tell some when I talk to young kids about the perseverance. Benedict's had his own rules because it's set up as Benedictine monks in the archdiocese. So they had kind of their own guidelines, not necessarily doing, Essex County School District rules.
Right.
From the curriculum, the times they had to start school and end school and everything, right? So Benedict's had a rule that when you were a freshman, you had to pick an activity at the end of the school year that you were going to participate in. And one was you were going to hike in the Appalachian Mountains for a week, or you were going to actually do a bike ride that you were actually going to be bike riding to Delaware. So they was taking the kids down. We would do so many miles per day. And the end goal was you're going to, be down in Delaware. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, I'm going to go with the bike. Now I'm picking, going with the bike. The monk that was in charge of the bike group ended up getting sick. So now everyone had to do the hiking.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay. So my foot is growing, I'm a 14 then, 15 on a hiking boot. And they were really stressing that, hey, you guys can't be in sneakers, this type of thing. You got to be, hiking boots because you could, damage your feet, break small bones in your feet if you don't have the proper footwear going up through the mountains. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay. So I had went and I did my little research trying to find boots in the 15. Ended up being a place out in Colorado. The boots was like $160.
Yeah.
Family didn't have that. So I went to the headmaster of the school. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, is this something that we'd be able to do? You could be able to help out, bake sale, do whatever, just to help in this situation. And they were like, no, it's nothing we could do. So I was like, well, I know mom can't afford this. We talked about it. So anyway, I did everything to build up to this. So you did one weekend was just one day camping. The next weekend was over the weekend camping. And then the following weekend was supposed to go from that weekend to the next weekend was supposed to be the whole week. So I did everything leading up. And I told the teacher, I said, I'm not going to be able to do the week because I don't have the proper footwear. So they said, well, don't worry about it. You'll be able to do it after your senior year. And I said, you know what? I came home, I told my mom, I said, the way my foot is growing, it grows with my age. If I can't afford it and got the shoes at 15, I'm not going to be able to wear 17 or 18. We're not going to be able to find it. So I knew that it was a requirement for graduation. Mm-hmm. So I knew Benedict's was going to stick me at the end because now my senior year, I done finished playing ball. They don't need me anymore. Mm-hmm. Then they're going to say, I got the grades, but I don't have their final thing on the curriculum. And I knew they were going to get me. So I transferred. And I transferred to Our Lady of the Valley. Okay. And actually, from talking to, Troy, that's where we actually met at.
So you met Troy,
At Our Lady of the Valley. And that was, another Catholic school up in Orange. That one was co-ed. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of like my journey. So what I tell the kids is that is you're going to have obstacles, and hurdles in life.
Right.
And it's just not, you got to figure out, how do I go through it, get around it, go under it, go over it. And, for me, it ended up, being able to go to another situation, another school, and then still excel, in the classroom and then also on the basketball court.
So you get the Valley, and again, I know you talked about going to Benedict's because close proximity to your home or what have you. So you get the Valley. That's in Orange. That's 280. That's everything else to get there. That's Valley Road. That's Scotland Road. Whatever the case may be, to get there. So how did you manage?
Oh, well, I tell you, the thing with that, while I was at Benedict's, about, before Christmas, we moved.
Okay.
So we moved from Newark, moved up to East Orange.
Okay. So
now I'm catching the bus every day to Benedict's. So I'm going back down to Newark, catching the bus there, getting off down at Bamberger's, walking up, up the hill of Benedict's. I'm catching the bus every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so now when I decided that, we're leaving, now I'm looking around, to Essex Catholic had actually moved up to East Orange.
East Orange, yes.
So you got Valley, you had Montclair, Immaculate, was the part of East Orange. I was actually real close to Montclair, right. Glenridge, over in Dyetown. So now that was an option. And then when, kind of researched, it just ended up at Valley because it was easy on the bus route.
Okay.
I caught the 20 across, Scotland Road. It was easy. And I didn't know anything about their basketball team or the coach or anything. Didn't meet him. I had no idea. I'm in school, just going to school, and then, looking at the bulletin board when tryouts are going to be and everything, and went about it that way.
Are you working on your game during this time? I know you say you started working on and practicing and everything.
Yeah.
Valley had, deep history as far as hoops and everything too. So I didn't know if you knew that once you got there. You probably learned about it once you got there, I'm assuming.
Well, learned about it once I got there, and then saw the guys that when I started meeting the guys that play basketball, all of them was recruited.
Got you. Yeah.
So you had the guys coming in from Newark, guys from Bloomfield, a guy from, Jerry Galicchio, he's from Bellsburg area. One guy from Bloomfield, he was from, he played with Kelly Tripucka.
Okay.
So he's with that Tripucka family. And I realized, I was like, oh my goodness, these guys, this is a basketball program that they're building because they bring all these guys in. They recruited Troy, on down the line. And I was like, it's kind of a next level. And the coach, the coach there, hold on one second.
No problem.
Oh, this is my wife creeping in, trying to get some papers though, but don't want to be on screen.
Nah, I hear. Don't worry. I've seen a few of those. Don't worry about
it. Right. So they were being recruited, and I'm like, oh, this is a big time program. And then also the coach wasn't a school teacher.
Okay.
So they just paid him
to coach.
Yeah. And so I'm like, oh, this is, another thing. But I said, hey, I had confidence in my game and my work that I said, hey, I'm for sure, trying out on the team. And, at this time now I'm 6'5". Okay. At 15 years old. And, I said, okay, so, this is fun. We have tryouts, right? And I know when you had the interview there with Troy, he was telling you like his story and playing with, dad teaching him. And he really knew how to play the game and score the basketball. Right? Really, use his body, pump fakes, all his stuff and score. So we do a drill and at tryouts. Now Troy is there, unbelievable. He right from day one, he's starting on varsity as a freshman. Okay. And so we're out there. We had another guy, Jerry Galicchio. He's 15. He's shaving. So I'm like, man, he got hair, he got hair
Yeah.
all on his legs. And
Mhm.
I'm like, wow, this, we got, guys driving,
Mhm.
that's on the team, and Marvin Wiggins, Tony Caesar, Ciavata, these guys was from all over.
Mhm.
And so we do a drill. And you got to play defense. The guy goes from one block to the other, they throw him the ball, and he has to score in the block. And now you get out once you get a stop on defense. So they go through, I'm watching because I'm not in the front of the line because I never did this drill. So I got to watch because I'm just basically pick up ball all the time. And so I'm out there and I get in, I'm on D, Troy comes, goes over, does his move, scores. So I'm like, couldn't stop him, even though I was, may have been a little taller. He does this like 3 times on me. And the coach gets frustrated and says, Brown, get out of the drill.
Oh, yeah.
Because first of all, he only knows me from there because he
Right.
didn't recruit me or anything. So he says, get out of the drill. And
How'd that make you feel? Yeah, how'd that make you feel?
Oh, like, wait a minute, you're telling me to get out of the drill. You're not like really kind of giving me the chance or telling me what I need to do to do it the right way. But, my determination, I said, no. And he was like, what? I said, no, I'm going to get a stop. So we went through, and then the next time I got a stop, didn't block Troy's shot. He just, it missed. I got the rebound. So I got to stop. So I'm off the, I'm out of the drill.
Okay.
So I was like, it was a good thing for me because too, I was proud that I didn't give up.
Yes.
Second, I was like, oh, I got a lot to learn. Because now this is like screening and moves and doing these things in basketball, which I was never taught. I was more just what you say, freelancing, just playing out in the playground.
Right.
I knew how to, get a shot off to score. So I'm like, oh, this is going to be, really good for me, to be in this situation and learn. So when I was there, I made JV as a sophomore and had good success. As a team and as an individual, we got better. And then at the end of the year, I got called up with 2 other of my teammates. I got called up to varsity.
Okay.
So we got a chance to play in a couple of varsity games at the end. And we won the county tournament, Essex County, and we won Parochial B state championship. So I was able to get a, Letterman's jacket and everything. And so that it was a good sophomore campaign. I learned a lot. I learned then that I had to lift weights.
Yes.
And I tell you a funny story. The guy comes in and he says, the coach set it up that we could go to this gym in South Orange Avenue, South Orange, and he opened up Nautilus. So he opened up this Nautilus, older Italian guy. So he came to the program and was giving us a discount to go work out at Nautilus. Okay. To lift weights. So the guy comes in and everybody, all the players are there. And he says, so this is the whole program, freshman, JV, varsity. And he says, has anyone ever lifted weights? So, I raised my hand and I hear the snickering, and kind of laughing. Because I had at home the little 110 weights, that you put the little, barbells, little weights on the end.
Oh, the little sand, you had the sand ones, the ones with the sand in them?
Yes. That's right.
Yeah.
So that's what I had. So I said, yeah, I lift weights because I had this little set at home, right? So, people kind of laughed. And I was like, oh, okay. So we went out there and he said, well, you guys come by. So now I got to catch the bus from Orange to South Orange Avenue. Okay. Go there, get the whole setup. So then now he gives me my card, clipboard. He said, you lead us here. You go through the stations because Nautilus was kind of circuit training. So you go through the stations, mark down your weight, your date, and you leave your clipboard, your card there. So it's always going to be there when you come back and get the weights. So I get there and, if you Nautilus had the kind of combo machine. So if you had one that was giving you the bench press here, it gave you the flies over here. So you could just change the pin, sit in the seat and do a different exercise. And I never forget, so I'm there after school. I tell my mom I'm gonna be later because I'm going from school to Nautilus and then got to get back home. So I'm there and I'm on one where I'm doing kind of like kind of like a fly. And then the second part was an overhead press right here on the shoulder up on the press. So I put the plate in, do the fly, switch the weight, and then go to lift.
Okay.
Listen, I'm doing this and it's not moving. So I get up out of the seat and I'm like, did I put it in right? Because the weight's gotta be moving and nothing. So I changed the plate. I went lower, get back, nothing. I'm like, this thing gotta, is that not too big for the machine or something? It's broken.
Yeah.
I went there, took out the pin. I was on one plate, hit it, and I felt it move a little bit. I couldn't lift one plate. And I was like, this is amazing. I'm looking around. So now I'm looking at other people and I'm like, this is crazy. But the thing was, I had never used that muscle before. And I just couldn't lift it. So that was even more than my motivation of, I need to make sure I be getting to this Nautilus.
Yes.
So in turn, kept going. And then, later on, I'm able to lift it. I'm able to lift 6, 7 plates. So I feel myself getting stronger. I see the visual getting stronger and I'm putting that time in.
That's right.
And so it really, began to pay its dividends because, I'm feeling better. I'm jumping higher. I'm doing all this extra work. And the thing was, I was doing it also too by myself. I didn't have that teammate to say, okay, come with me.
Yes.
And I just went and did it. And that I really had a love for the game and a desire to get better and, to learn. So that really, helped me.
Nah, it's interesting you talk about, even from that moment, even a little bit earlier too, just putting in that work. I mean, I think sometimes that gets overlooked, like just that behind the scenes and putting in that work, whether it's lifting, whether it's just working on your game, on the court or what have you, how important that is. And I mean, it sounds like you developed that early on, and it sounds like it just stayed with you.
It did, because I was one that I had to walk to school. And when I went to Bless Sacrament, I had to catch the bus. So I'm catching the bus at 6, 7 years old. And this isn't the yellow bus, this is the regular Newark transportation.
Right.
The yellow bus, they had certain names for the yellow bus kids. I politically correct, I can't say it now. But I'm catching the regular bus. So I knew that you had to, fight the elements, because I'm catching the bus going to school in the winter, in the snow. I got to get there. So that how you say, that desire or that mentality to get it done, I had instilled in me very young. And so I just, took that, and I used to say to myself, I have to go to school. So, and I enjoy school, but I have to do it. If I'm playing basketball, that's what I want to do. So if I can't put the 100% effort into something that I'm choosing to do,
right,
I said that's a reflection on my personality. So I just put the work in, got better, made sure, and in my household, if the grades wasn't good, then I couldn't do any sports. And since I enjoyed sports also, I'm definitely getting the good grades. And then from being from a single parent household, and I see how my mom is sacrificing,
yes,
to make sure she put food on the table, because I ate a lot, growing young man. I'm growing out of my clothes. So now she has to buy, shoes every 6 months. And she's doing situations that she's not getting herself a new pair of shoes to get me mine, because I'm growing. And I'm like, and all I got to do is get good grades. I said, I'm never want to disappoint them, that way, where they have to worry about me in the principal's office or something, or flunking out. And the fact too that she has to go now and work an extra gig, by meaning working bingo hall or something to supplement the tuition.
Yes, yes.
So it was, that whole kind of work ethic, was instilled in me real young.
Mhm. And even with that being said, I mean, junior year, do you obviously, if you recall, do you wind up starting at Valley or?
No, another funny, situation talk about junior year is that now, and this one too is another one that I tell the young people. I go in, and me and the other two guys that was on JV, they got called up.
Okay.
One is a point guard, but his thing is football. Great running back, Mark Barner, great running back. He just did basketball to stay in shape. And since he was such a good athlete and had the toughness, he was definitely a good point guard, because you just wasn't taking the ball from him. So my other guy, we were the two that was supposed to be the center on varsity.
Okay.
I was taller than him, but he was a more explosive jumper, 2 foot David Thompson type jumper, but undersized center. And so we, Troy, Jerry, all these guys are back, and we should have a good team. So we're practicing, and now it gets down to games, and JV plays before varsity. So we're playing like Mountain, which was predominantly,
West Orange, right?
It was all white.
Yeah.
And so the center was like 6'1".
Okay.
Right. So I'm now 6'7". And so I go in and we're going to play them. And we got about 3 guys injured on JV. So the coach calls me in the office, Ted Fiore, and he calls me in the office and he says, hey, he said, I need you, and in Jersey, you can play 5 quarters a night.
Right. He
said, I need you to play a couple quarters on JV. And I said, okay, coach, how come? He says, oh, we got the guys hurt, and we're building something with the program, so we don't want JV to lose. So I'm asking you, the point guard, Mark, and the other center to play JV, and you're going to play your 2 quarters. And he said, and then, I'm going to play you your normal time on varsity on your 3 quarters. So I was like, well, coach, I said, I don't think that really is going to help me, because their center is like 6'1". I'm not going to get better playing against him. But he said, okay, do me a personal favor and do that. And, you're still going to play your 3 quarters. So I said, okay. So I go out there, and I get 32 points in 2 quarters. So I'm like, just turn around, shooting over the guy, just laying him, and so I'm like, okay. So now, so this is what happens. We get in with the varsity game.
Okay.
So we all suited up. I don't start. So I said, okay, don't get in first quarter. So now second quarter comes around, don't start the second quarter. So I'm like, oh, all right. So puts me in with about 3 minutes left before halftime. Goes in 3 minutes. So now third quarter starts, don't start. Play about 3 minutes again. Then the fourth quarter doesn't start me. And then I play the last 4 minutes of the quarter. Okay. So I play about 10, maybe 11 minutes for the game. So I'm okay. We win the game. We got practice now, starts me at practice, everything, and, on that team. So and then now we got a game like on Thursday. It was like a Tuesday, Thursday thing. So then he asked me, he said, oh, Mike, I need you to, could you do that, that again with the 2 quarters? And I said, no, coach. I said, you see, I had 32 points in 16 minutes. I said, that didn't get me, any better playing against a 6'1", a 6'1" senior. I mean, center. And he says, oh, do me a personal favor, And I said, no, I don't think so. And he said, excuse me? And I said, no, I don't want to do that. And he said, well, why not? I said, well, because you lied to me. And I didn't play my 3 quarters in my regular, kind of rotation.
Right.
And he said, well, I can make you play. And I said, no, I said, you can't make me do anything.
That's right.
And so my whole junior year, I set the bench. I probably played, I kid you not, maybe in 6 games. And I just kept praying. It was trying to break me for me to quit. I just kept at practice, stayed after, got a couple of extra shots up, went to the Nautilus, lifted, and then finally the junior year where I'm talking about, I got in these 5-6 games. We are now in tournaments, the county tournament, state tournament, and these teams are bigger. I went from not playing to starting against those games, had 12, 14 points, kind of made my little niche. And I said, oh man, that work I've been putting in really paid off. Because this is my first time that I actually get a chance to use it in a game. Yeah. Because I was
just ready though. You stayed ready though. Yes.
I was ready, but went in, did my thing. And I was like, okay, I'm going to leave. And I mentioned before that Catholic school got out a couple of weeks before public. So I just made my plan and I visited about 8 different schools.
Okay.
I would go there during the school day, catch the bus, went to East Orange, went to Montclair, did Immaculate, went to Orange, went to Clifford Scott. I just went and I said, I want to see the school. I went to the office, got my little badge, like a visitor, went around, walked around the school, cafeteria, met the coach, because the coach is normally the gym coach, gym teacher, met them, and was like, I just wanted to see how your school was, how's your team, because, I may be, kind of transferring. And then went, transferred, found Clifford Scott. Well, I'm coming home. I do all this situation with my mom, tell her concern is the academics.
Right.
That's the first part. And I told her, I said, Mom, I'm already ahead of schedule because it just happened to be from Benedict's and Our Lady of the Valley, things were more accelerated. So I had completed most of my classes that a senior would have, I did as a junior. So I said, don't worry, I'm good, I'm good there. And so she was like, fine. So at the end, I go to Clifford Scott, I meet Greg Tynes, and Greg is probably 23, 24, from Seton Hall and coming out, and he had coached that is only 1 year at Clifford Scott. So maybe 24, no more than 25. So I meet him, I talk to him, and just his eyes lit up. Like,
oh sure they did, yeah.
Yeah, like this could fall in my lap, just the side. And he said, listen, I'll work with you. I'll make sure I get you better. Because again, I still never had that really one-on-one coaching.
Okay.
Because I'm just going to practice and he knows he's not playing me at Valley. So that now Greg is saying, oh yeah, I get you better. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I end up transferring over right in June to Clifford Scott. And in New Jersey, you have to wait 45 days before you're eligible. So I did it right in June. So the end of July, I'm eligible.
Oh, so even include the summer days counts?
Yes, because now I went and registered for the school before the school year was over.
See what you're saying? Yes.
So I'm really registered in the last 4 or 5 days of my junior year. Registered, so now that counts.
See what you're saying? Did Coach Fiore, was it an issue?
Oh, listen, he doesn't know. Now, this is what happens. We find out at the end of the Street and Smith comes out rankings. So we're ranked 23rd in the country at
Mhm.
Our Lady of the Valley
Okay.
because we got everybody, coming back,
Mhm.
and we went fairly close as a junior. And I mean, junior year, we went fairly close, but we couldn't get up over that hump. Now we got everyone back. So we got experience,
Yes.
from getting that far, and we got all the players back, right? And again, Troy had a, tremendous year because he's just coming off winning the state championship,
Mhm.
as a sophomore, as my sophomore year. So anyway, I go do that. Troy finds out that I transferred.
Mhm.
So in August, he transfers.
Mm.
So he's over there. Now our point guard, Andre Adams,
Mhm.
great point guard, he goes back to Valley for one day. And when he finds out that we're gone, he transfers over to Scott. So now we got 3 starters really from Valley.
Mhm.
And I'm the late bloomer, kind of starter.
Yes.
That is over at Clifford Scott. Fiore finds out because he's not a school teacher. So he doesn't, see that we're not there. He finds out, he leaves Valley and goes to St. Peter's.
Mm.
It becomes, the coach down at St. Peter's, right? Because he's like, no, I'm not going to be affiliated. We're not going to have a good team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be associated with that.
Mm-hmm.
So Galicchio was the only one that goes back. And Valley started off 0-16 and just had horrible, and they ended up winning their first game against Orange, and Galicchio left during the middle of the year, went to Velsburg, because that's where he actually lived and was zoned for.
Okay.
So he started that season at Valley playing, and then ended up finished playing at Velsburg. Mm-hmm. So, and we go over to Clifford Scott and we win the state championship.
Yeah, yeah.
Great Times wins Coach of the Year. Troy, another state championship, first team All-State. We both make first team All-County, Essex County, and it was a great situation from there. But it was tough. So now I go to the NIT. NIT Final Four is in the Garden. Mm-hmm. Somebody called me up. They ended up having the tickets, and I go over there. We're watching, and this is the first time I ever seen somebody this tall. It was Kevin McHale and Randy Brewer was on the same team for the University of Minnesota.
Okay, yeah.
And they're in the NIT. And I'm looking at the size of them, and I'm thinking I'm tall. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at these, almost 7-foot guys. And I mean, Brewer was like 7'2". Mm-hmm. And so I'm walking around the Garden, and I see Fiore.
Oh,
so I see him down the hall. So he's coming towards me. Mm-hmm. So I look, he realized, I see him before he sees me. He sees me, he turns around and beeline the other way. Mm. So now I start hustling. Mm-hmm. I said, I'm gonna catch him. So, the Garden is a circle.
Yes.
So, I'm going and excuse me, and I'm looking, and I lost him. He ducked into somewhere. Mm-hmm. And, and I didn't see it because I was going to confront him on the fact that thanks for doing what you did. Mm-hmm. Because, too, that gave me the opportunity, the motivation, the drive also, the fuel to my fire to continue on. So, your plan didn't break me, it improved me. Mm-hmm. But I didn't get a chance. And he knew it too. He was gone. But yeah, that was a funny situation there with Fiore. Yeah.
Nah, interesting. Then you say, like you say, you from that to going to Scott to winning the states to, being a toast of East Orange. And again, I know how competitive Scott and East Orange High are. So I mean, just bragging rights, just in that city alone here. But also, you got all this. You're a senior. Are you thinking about how the recruiting thing come along? I know you end up at GW, but how that come along?
Well, I wasn't. It was only one other family member that went to college in my family in the household, and Walter Brown had went to St. Benedict's, and he played football there.
Okay.
So he actually, and then he went to the University of Penn in the Wharton School of Business. So he's the only graduate. So I was like, he's doing well, successful, talked to me a little bit about college. I was like, yeah, going to college. I never thought about going to college and playing ball.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, because he went to Penn to play football, came back at Thanksgiving time and was like, listen, these guys are huge.
Mm.
And he was only on the JV football team.
Mm-hmm.
So after his first year, he stopped playing football.
Okay.
So it's not like he was that model that I'm seeing him playing football in D1.
Yes.
That it's like, oh, I want to be like Cousin Walter. He stopped because they were bigger and just focused on school.
Mm-hmm.
So I never really thought that, okay, now I could go to college and play ball. But when I went to 5-star basketball camp, I met Camp. I'm doing well. Matter of fact, I met Camp one week with Jordan. So
Okay.
Jordan wins the MVP. He wins actually a co-MVP, him with John Flowers, which is Mr. Indiana, and from Indiana to end up going to IU. And I won the best rebound.
Okay.
So I said, you know what? Again, I went to 5-star twice that summer, won best rebounder both times.
Mm.
And I'm like, oh, I'm rebounding against these guys that you're McDonald's All-Americans
Mm-hmm.
and everything. I'm holding my own. And actually, I ended up being the best in camp,
Mm-hmm.
voted on for this. And so back then, you're getting your Patino, you're getting all these coaches. They're actually at 5-star.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Fratello, Digger Phelps. So they're working stations and they actually get a chance to talk to the players. And they will pull me to the side and show me like, here's a reverse pivot for a box out that you could do. And everything. I was like, oh, wow, how to use my forearm, for leverage. And then from 5-star, the letters started coming.
Okay.
So the letters are coming and they're sending them to my house registered because I done left Valley. So they don't know anything about the school. They're sending it to the house and I'm getting these letters. And I'm like, well, wow, this is, we like you. We're going to be following you your senior year and da-da-da. And I'm like, well, this could work out to something. Now, at Scott, we got success and other guys in Essex County that were bigger names. Mm-hmm. We're beating them. And, we only lost 3 games that year. And I'm like, wow. So I'm taking trips. They're coming to the house. Yeah. So I get great times involved on the recruiting process because it's new to me, new to my mom.
Right.
And I say, Coach, I'd like to have you there. He's already been recruited before by going to Seton Hall with Rafferty and drafted. I think he was, with the Celtics.
With the Celtics, right.
And I'm like, and he said, okay, sure, Mike. So we had times that we were setting up, getting 2-3 visits a day from schools. Mm. And so he would ask me, what was I looking for in the school? What did I want to study? So we would have these conversations and really, really was a great tool, in helping me, with that whole process. And then for me to realize kind of the magnitude and how important this decision at 17 I was going to make. Mm-hmm. And one coach had told me, he said, you're going to make 3, important decisions in your life. Where you go to school, when you buy a house, and who you marry. Right. And I'm like, hey, that house thing and that marriage, that's way in another stratosphere. So I said, go to school. I'm like, is that? And I'm realizing it is, that it was magnitude, that type of magnitude on it. And I realized I'm getting better. Now I'm 6'9".
Okay.
And, getting stronger, able to do things and have success on the court, in the classroom, notoriety. And you really see the hard work, the fruits of your labor paying off by the letters, the interest from colleges, schools that I'm watching on television that I'm like, oh, this is Syracuse, this is Villanova. And the coach was in my house last week. Sitting on my couch.
Yes.
So it was a good thing then. So at the end, I ended up choosing GW.
Was anybody in the close second, or it was GW from the beginning?
yes, this would happen. Syracuse, Villanova, we used to always go to.
Okay.
So you could take as many unofficial visits as you want. You only get 5 paid visits that they fly you out, put you up in the hotel. So Troy, myself, another guy that went to Weekway, Darnell Glenn, he was a sophomore. So Villanova had a thing that they were getting me as a senior, Troy was a junior, he'll be the next year, and Darnell was a sophomore, he'll be the following year.
Okay.
So that was kind of their process on recruiting us. So we had a local friend of Massimito's. He would put us in the van and we'll drive down to Villanova games.
Okay.
So we're down at the Palestra, we're doing these things. So we probably took a half dozen trips to Villanova. So we're getting that whole college atmosphere.
Yes.
The games, the intensity, you know, we're having a blast. And so we're doing that. So Villanova was really almost kind of like we're in their backyard. That was Villanova. And then for me, Syracuse ended up being the one that was that second for me.
Okay.
Roosevelt Bowie was there. They had a few New York guys from Red Bruin and those Sandifer. And Danny Shays was a senior.
Okay.
They had just built the Carrier Dome. And so Boeheim was like, listen, my senior's leaving. And we just got this new arena, this atmosphere up here. You know, this will be a great fit for you. And we had played down in Villanova's camp, Troy and myself, and we played against the Gauchos, big time New York,
right.
You know, clubs. Say we played against the Gauchos, Riverside Church, these guys. So we ended up winning the tournament down there. And the big guy from the Gauchos had committed to Syracuse. So I already knew, I said, I proved myself against him during the summer. So I said, I'm better than him. And another guy had committed early on because he had a great game against Patrick Ewing. And so he committed to Syracuse. And now Syracuse is still recruiting, you know, me. But I said, I'm cool because I know what I could do.
Yes.
And I know I'm going to carve out my niche and play. So I'm up at Syracuse, have a great visit. They found out I love dogs. So I go to a house, alumni's house.
Okay.
And they on the lake. And they had a chocolate lab. So they tell me to go outside playing with the dog. They said, the dog will fetch. So I pick up a stick, throw the stick into the water, dog run, jump in the water, come back, bring me the stick. I'm like, oh, this is great, right?
Yeah.
Shake it off, I get wet, and I keep doing this, right? So then they come out and they tell me, they said, you know, if you come to Syracuse, they said the dog's name, you know, we're breeding her. And the first pick of the litter goes to the owner of the other dog. And they said, you could have the second pick. So I'm like, oh man, I can have my dog. This is so I'm like, okay, that's cool.
That's not a recruiting violation?
Yeah, listen. Yes. And on top of that, listen, I know I can't take care of dogs in college. Yeah. But this is all, you know, this is
of course,
right?
Of course.
So I'm like, okay. So Syracuse, you know, does this. So, and now, you know, we get in on Friday, and now Sunday we leave. So at the end, you meet with the head coach after breakfast, and then one of the assistant coaches take you to the airport. So I'm sitting in Boeheim's office. And so, you know, we're talking, and he's asking me about school because I wanted to be engineer. I wanted to be chemical engineer. Because, you know, at this time, I lived through, you know, the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, the gas shortage, staying in line with the car, out of even on your license plate was the days you could get gas. So I said, oh, in the chemical engineering, I could be out in the field. I could, you know, learn about the petroleum, trying to find oil, gas, all of this. I said, it's a field that I felt was a need. Okay. So I could get a job. And I had already taken, you know, my calculus, that stuff. So I enjoy science and math. So I said, okay, I wanted to be chemical engineering. So quite a few schools from Seton Hall, because they were on me because of times they went there, and from like St. John's, they didn't have a chemical engineering program.
Okay.
And so Syracuse did. So they really felt, ahead of everyone else. So I'm in the office, I'm sitting here with Behan. And so he just finished his freshman year, 16 guy, and he knocks on the coach's door. And so he says, come on in. So Behan wanted to demonstrate that he had an open door kind of program. You could come in whenever. So I got up and I was saying, oh, excuse me, I go outside while y'all talk. Behan, no, sit down, Brownie, stay here. And, Larry's coming in. I want you to listen to this. And, blah, blah, blah. So that friendly, I got a relationship with the players. Right. So I sit there. So the guy came in. He was like, oh, sit down. So he sat down and he said, Coach, I've looked at everything and, I like to transfer. Listen, Behan went as white as your boy behind you.
Yeah.
He just went like, oh, because I'm here as a recruit. And here's the player come in. And he said, I want to transfer. And so he was like, why? And he had a great point. I'm just listening. And he says, it was just Danny Shays. And it was him and another freshman. They were the backup centers. And Behan played the forward, where one was a backup forward, played the forward at the center spot instead of this young man.
Okay.
So his playing time was very limited, but he was 6'10", 6'11". And so the guy said, I didn't play much as a freshman. And now, you're recruiting other bigs. So he saw that I'm probably not going to play because I only had Danny Shays in front of me and I didn't play much. So he said, I would like to go to a smaller school, like Holy Cross and St. Bonaventure, and just get chance to play and enjoy my college career. I got no aspirations going off to try to play pro ball in the NBA, overseas, or anything. I just want to play in college and enjoy it.
Yes. And
so Behan said, listen, he brought out he said, looked at the roster. He was like, and told him, he said, you're going to play more this year. So, I sat there and it was fine. Larry left. So then now Behan, just went and didn't want to talk about that situation and just say, oh yeah, they told me you went to the frat party and you had a good time and you were staying with Red Bruin and all this. He diverted it that way. So I said, well, listen, Coach, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna talk to my mom, my uncle, my grandmother, and then in the next week, I got one more visit to take because I actually wanted to take and I had 2 left. I wanted to take my 5. Okay. Because, I get a chance to get on a plane. I had never flown before. My first time getting on a flight was my recruiting trip, and I went to Penn State. Okay. So I said, I want to get a chance to take these and enjoy this because it's only a once in a lifetime shot. Right. And then I give you my decision. He said, okay. So, I go home and I tell my parents, I said, as much as I like Syracuse on, that basketball town and everything, I said, I didn't like what they did to this young man. Because I said, he came in and he lied to him. Because if he didn't play just behind Danny, he's not playing behind the guy who had he's not playing in front of the guy who had a great game against Patrick Ewing. The guy from the Gauchos. Yes. And playing in front of him. Now, if I come, he's definitely not. And I said, he told him straight to his face that he was going to play more. And now I get the flashback of Fiore lying to me. Yes. So I said, I said, I'm not going to do this. So I go and I go home and I don't get my answers yet because I'm still, supposed to take some trips. And I go down and I get a chance to go to the Final Four. Great times, and I go to the Final Four. It happened to be in the Spectrum.
That's the one. Indiana won that one, right? Is that the one?
Indiana won.
Yes.
So now you really got all your basketball history there.
Nah, a little bit.
Yeah, Indiana wins. And my coach is an assistant coach at Indiana.
Okay.
So now they win it.
Mm-hmm.
He gets the job at GW. So he
Okay.
becomes the youngest head coach in the country for D1, Jerry Gimbel style, and he's a Norker.
Mm.
His brother Barry coached at Week Wake, then went over and was also at Southside. So anyway, he's a Newark guy. They grew up in Livingston, and from Newark to Livingston. So that family. So I was like, he gets the job. So he knew while he was at Indiana that he was going to be leaving Indiana. So he got the GW job. So he was able to give Great Times the tickets for us to go down. So we watched Indiana win. So I was like, okay. So he comes to the house afterwards. He said, I got the job. And he says, listen, I'm going to be straight honest with you. I'm going to build my program around you.
Mm.
He said, you're going to be the cornerstone, and we're going to bring in pieces. And we're going to build this and do some good things. And I said, okay, that's really good. He said, DC is a great city. Everything, and the university, I didn't know much about George Washington because the Big East is just coming up. Big East schools are recruiting me. Big East got a little TV package coming in. I'm going over to Seton Hall, watching Big East games at Seton Hall. So I don't know about the Eastern 8 at that time. And he says, up and coming, we're going to be going into a new conference your sophomore year, the Atlantic 10.
Atlantic 10, yeah.
And we're going to get bigger and get TV. So he's like, I want you along for the ride. He said, I left Indiana, which we just won the national championship, because I believe in this ride from the Eastern 8 to the Atlantic 10, and I love to have you. So I like the sales pitch. I got a good vibe from him. And so I chose GW without going to visit yet.
Oh.
So it was a Wednesday, and I didn't go take my visit yet. Chose them. Friday, I'm getting on the train, and I'm going down for my visit. And I actually go down with Darnell Glenn. He's a sophomore. We went
from
catch the
Weekly,
train down together.
Yeah.
So we go down there together, catch the train, and put us up and stay with the guys. And I take my, official visit down to GW. And so it was a good move. So now all the red flags go up. So now Syracuse really think that I got paid because they said, how can I commit and I didn't even visit yet? And they laid out the red carpet. And I was like, no, you know what? I didn't do that. I was never offered or anything because I always felt that, if I commit to something like that, even though it would help me and my family, that I could easily be bought the same way by meaning they can recruit over me. They can now hold that over my head that if you don't do this, I can tell the NCAA. I always thought about that, and growing up, knowing that I can work hard at giving me good things, why would I kind of sell myself short for the short-term reward rather than the big picture that I work real hard for? So, I never took anything. And, some schools offered, different little things to help you out, which would be breaking rules. But I never, never did. So that squashed that with kind of Syracuse. But the real reason for Syracuse is because they wouldn't let the guy transfer. That was my reason on not, committing there because, they lied to him.
Wow. That's a journey just to get down to DC here.
Oh, yeah.
So you get down to DC. I want to ask, I know, being you and your mom here, how did mom feel about you leaving the crib? You going south a little bit?
Oh yeah, well, it wasn't as, that far away, but mom also too was that mom that knew that you needed to spread the wings to be a young man
Mm-hmm.
in order to grow and be a good man. So
Yes.
she knew that. Now, of course, it's close enough that I'm able to. People's Express had the 1999 flights, $20 flights. So I was able to do that and,
Mm-hmm.
went up to $30. So I was able to come home, and then Amtrak,
Yes.
I'm able to get home. And then also the fact that people in New York, Philly, they're
Mm-hmm.
always driving up. And I
Mm-hmm.
remembered on the school board, you can put it up there, you can hitch a ride, help
Okay.
out with gas. So I was able to get back quite often. And then as you grow and get acclimated to school, those visits become a little less and less coming
Yeah.
home.
Right.
And then
Right.
the winter is basketball season.
Mm-hmm.
So, she got a chance to come down to DC. She had never been to DC,
Mm-hmm.
before. So she got a chance to come. I'm showing her around, the Smithsonian's and the monuments. So she was really proud that I was growing and stretching out as a young man and being independent. And so it was good. It was close enough
Mm-hmm.
and further enough at the same time.
Okay.
I really didn't want to be honest, be right in the New Jersey, the New York metropolitan area, because then it was too easy to get home.
Mm-hmm.
And I never, in any kind of diversity, I'm looking at trying to go home. Compared to being 3 hours away, 3.5, I had to figure it out.
Okay.
And so it was a nice mix there of being close enough and the easy access that they could come, she could come and the family could come see me.
Mm-hmm.
And I could get home. And then being in Atlantic 10, Rutgers was in our conference.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a chance to come home, every year where they could just see me play right in the backyard. So it was a, great choice. And I know that it was tough for mom by being the only child and being out.
Mm-hmm.
She never really emphasized that to me, but I knew it was because it's she and I all along.
Mm-hmm.
And then now I'm stepping out, but in turn I knew she was, really proud of me, and she knew that she wanted me to do that as
Mm.
part of my, growing up process.
Nah, it makes sense here. I mean, so you got DC, you have all the freedom in the world, and how do you juggle all of this with the business of college basketball?
Well, it was, it's basketball on that D1 keeps you so busy.
Okay.
They make sure they're occupying all of your time by meaning it was actually, I'm doing my class schedule, with the counselors and around basketball.
Mm-hmm.
So some classes that I can't take in the middle at 10 o'clock in the morning because we got practice.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to look at that class and try to take it at 5 o'clock. So, everything they occupy your time. And so, and they also help you on the guidance to make sure you're on the path of succeeding, because the academics is a whole nother level in college.
Yes.
So that's a first.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of practice is nothing like a grade times practice.
Mm-hmm.
The mandatory study hall, weightlifting, eating well, all of these things come on. And then you add on the travel on top of that you're now missing classes because you have a game
Right.
on a Wednesday and a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these things, so that transition was huge.
Yeah.
And you really have to be focused because you could easily get lost. And, I had my roommate that came in with me as a freshman. After 2 years, he ended up, grades wasn't up to par and he had to leave GW.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm experienced him. And then I also see that, they didn't give him as much attention as they gave me, because maybe he wasn't developing as quick as they thought should have been basketball wise.
Okay.
So that was an eye-opening part of the business of it.
Mm-hmm.
Is you're in, we need you to produce, and that trade-off is your college education, that money that we're giving you for college, to your ability and your success on the court, which is in turn going to keep the job of the coach.
Yes.
And when it doesn't happen, they're looking to bring in someone new, to replace you, to make sure that it goes forward the way they would like. Mm-hmm. And I saw that with my roomie, and it was nothing I could do besides encourage and says, hey, take advantage of these tutors. This and that, let's do it that way. Reach out and get this help because it is available for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the coach,
a business.
Yes.
And as soon as you realize that, the sooner you realize that as a student athlete, mm-hmm. the better off you're going to be. Mm-hmm. Because I realized the last coach that cared was really, really, cared was Greg Times, mm-hmm. being unconditional. Mm-hmm. Yeah, my college coach cared because it helped him keep his job. Right. And then on the pro side, it's all about winning to keep your job. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, that was, I realized that on the journey.
Now, did coach hold up his end of the deal that he told you while recruiting you? You the corner piece, you was the centerpiece from day one?
I was the centerpiece, and they, went in, played right, from when I was a freshman, earned it, played, outplayed guys, earned it, built around me, brought in the pieces, it was 4 of us when I was a freshman. Mm-hmm. Then the next year it was 6, and Troy was part of that group.
Your boy comes with you, yeah?
Oh yeah. And he came right in and contribute right away. Mm-hmm. And ended up we both tied and led our team in scoring that year. Mm-hmm. I mean, and he had a bigger transition that he had to make because he always played with his back to the basket. Mm-hmm. He was so effective in high school. And then at Scott, he was able to be out there with a guard because, I'm down low and Tynes taught him. And then his senior year won the state championship again at mm-hmm. Scott, went back to back. And then now down here and was in DC. And I'm like, things are good for me. And, and he knew too that, he could feed me the ball and I'm going to have a spotlight on me, which that spotlight shines on everyone.
Yes.
And the same happened, at Scott when we went over and we ended up winning. They already had 5 seniors on the team. Mm-hmm. So now when we come in with Andre Adams, myself, that's 2 more than Troy. Those guys accepted us. We won, and we had like 8 guys go to college to play ball.
Yeah, that's all right.
Because as a collective group, we won. It wasn't like, you're coming in kind of taking my minutes. No, we won, and it shined on everybody. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to show you here. I don't know if I could get.
Oh no, I was going to get to it at the end. I see it.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, I see the.
Oh, okay,
I see it.
Yeah, and so yeah, things was good. Troy joined me down at GW. We had success down there. They kept recruiting, but we got better. And our coach too was kind of that Bobby Knight disciple.
Okay.
So that Bobby Knight disciple was going to yell and scream and do that military thing. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't for everyone.
Right.
And if you can't take that, Lou Gossip, officer and the gentleman up in your face, mm-hmm. Kind of demeaning type thing, it wasn't for you. I was able to because, again, having a single mom was on me verbally, knowing that she had to do that way by me being a young man mm-hmm. and then being as big as I was to mm-hmm. kind of keep me, kind of under wraps.
Yes. And
on the respect, fear type thing.
Yes.
So, when he's telling me blank, 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 rebound, all I hear is rebound.
Mhm.
So all that other stuff really didn't bother me
Mm.
because, I was, used to it, and it wasn't for everyone. So we end up later on having some of the recruits, there was some key pieces not fit in and leave because of, the atmosphere could have been a little bit more toxic, for them. And then even when Troy had mentioned, he ended up having a little falling out,
Yeah.
and he was one of the main pieces and ended up having, bumping heads. So it wasn't for everyone.
Team success. How were you guys those 4 years? I know this is I don't know, fun time of the year for a lot of people with the tournament going on here. It brings back memories for some people. How team wise? How are you? How are you guys?
We were a close knit team as guys, and we had success, but we were always that kind of 15, 16, 17, 18 when, club. And I think the most we got was 18 or 19.
Okay.
So we never was able to win the Atlantic 10 tournament to be an automatic bid.
Okay.
And by having that 18, 19, it never got us to the NCAA. And fortunately, we got down. We thought one year we were going to make it on the NIT.
Okay.
But ended up not doing it, not getting that bid in because the field was actually smaller than what it is now, the selection, and we just didn't do it. If we would have went to the Atlantic 10 championship game, we would have got it. But we got knocked out in the quarters. So, we wasn't able to get it. So the unfortunate part of my college career was that I never made it to the postseason.
Yeah.
No, and I always thought I would, but just wasn't fortunate enough. But then I look around and Villanova, wins the championship. But I was happy for them, happy for Massimino, and I was real and still satisfied today on the choice I made. I thought GW was great for me because it was that philosophy of I was a big fish in a little pond, and that helped me blossom with confidence and also notoriety that I end up making the USA team, traveling and going to Asia, overseas, seeing parts of the world that I never thought about seeing from, being a little boy from Newark.
Now, even making that USA team, who's on that team with you?
That team, we actually, that summer, we had 3 teams that went over. My team went to Asia.
Okay.
Barkley's team went to Canada.
Okay.
And then Jordan's team went down to Venezuela for the Pan Am.
Okay.
So we all go to the Olympic trials together. So I actually thought that was like the greatest assembly of amateur talent
I
ever.
can only imagine.
Yes, the Bobby Knight at in Bloomington. And I practiced 3 times a day. That's the hardest I've ever practiced in my life.
Yeah.
He was up on the scaffold. They built a scaffold at 2 stories up, and he's there watching all the practices in the court. I mean, all the different courts. It was 68 of us. They got invited to the Olympic trials, and we went there, and then we practiced 3 times a day. Then we had the weekend was games.
Okay.
So the goal was to make it to the weekend because the games are on TV. The weekend was games. So they cut it to 32 for the weekend, 8 a team. And I made that 32.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at like Ed Pinckney didn't make it. And I'm saying, and he just won.
You just won the chip. Yeah.
I'm looking at guys from Greg Stokes and Keith Lee. I mean, these great players from Iowa,
Memphis. Yeah.
Bobby Lee Hurt, Alabama. And I'm like, wow, I got chosen. So I knew that I'm on this right path. But when we went to Asia, my team was Matt Doherty, Otis Storp, Vern Fleming, Blair Rasmussen. We had Danny Tartanian made it, Stu Gray. So we had a real good team. We ended up going over winning the gold medal.
Okay, yeah.
And then we had a crazy fight that we ended up fighting against a team from Taiwan. The fans jumped over, throwing chairs. Oh, it was crazy.
You wrong part of the earth to be fighting.
We was winning. We was up like by 48.
Yeah.
It was great. We're up 48. And I watched their coach he called a timeout with like minute 40, minute 30 left in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And he huddled them up on the floor, right? And I was walking to the bench and I'm looking. I get to the bench and I said, "Hey guys," I said, "that don't look good over there." I said, "So let's be careful
yes,
when we get back out on the floor because we had to finish the game." So we go back out there, and sure enough, dribbling the ball up, we're on D, and I see the little point guard for Taiwan cock back, and he hits Danny Tartane. Then Stu Gray hits another guy, so now it's the brawl. And they had it set up because when they started running out with the water cooler and everything. They had weapons.
Oh, they're ready, yeah.
Yes, it was all the same. Then the fans, they jumped over the wall. You had like a little wall, like a hockey when you put. They jumped over that, so the fans started coming after the players. So now we're on the floor, and we got to get out of the arena.
Right.
So we had a bunch of U.S. fans sitting in one section, and it was down in the pit. So we had to run up the stairs to get to the lobby. So guys are like running, and I look, and I see Tartanian running up the wrong steps. He's running up there to where the Taiwan fans were.
Yeah.
They're kicking him. And I said, "Oh my goodness." I said, "If he falls, it's going to be over." So I run over there, and I actually, get him, scoot him up to the lobby. But before that, I'm on the floor, and I go to move, and a guy's coming at me with a chair. So he got the chair cocked back. So I said, "Listen, if I turn, he going to hit me in my back of the head with the chair." So I broke down. I was a big fan of Bruce Lee. I broke down in my kung fu stance. I had my hands up, my legs. So he throws the chair. I block it. I pick the chair up, and then I hit him with it. And then I look up and I see Danny. So I did that my little Bruce Lee act before actually going up, to save Danny and get him out. And so we got up there, and it was a brawl. The military police had to come. Well, I'm calling the military because they had shields and everything, riot patrol, police. Then we had to meet with them, big diplomatic thing. And we actually had to go back down on the floor with the Taiwan team and show solidarity, shake hands, and wave to the fans to let them know that we're cool. So this doesn't spill out. Into, the streets. So we did that, and then we ended up having to go to the U.S. Embassy because Taiwan is our ally, and here we are fighting, wearing the country's names on our chest.
Yes.
So it was a diplomatic move, and show you how small the world was. The ambassador of Taiwan, the U.S. ambassador that was living in Taiwan actually was a GW alumni.
Small world.
Yeah. So it was. So that was a big kind of international, kind of thing. But that was part of my USA experience.
Crazy. Yeah, crazy. But even to make it down, so you made it down. Did you make it past the 32?
Didn't make it past the 32. Actually, my coach told me that I ended up everybody went home after the 32 weekend.
Okay.
And so he told me I was 21st.
20, wow.
So they were bringing 20 back. And if one of those 20 wasn't, something happened and it was the next week, I was going to be the one of them. I knew that wasn't happening because guys are going home and, you're not going to go home and do something, twist the ankle or something, and then now can't make it back. But it was good to know that I was 21st. That 20 went back, and from that 20, they cut it to 16.
Mm-hmm.
And from the 16, they cut it to 12. And then they had 2 alternates.
The alternates, yes.
And so that was the LA Olympic, 84
Right.
Olympic team. So Sam Perkins, Jordan, Tisdale.
Alford and all those guys, right?
Yeah, Steve Alford. You know, that was that whole team.
But even doing all of that, I mean, so in your mind, you're like, you know what? This pro thing, this could be a reality.
I realized then that it really could. And then also my coach told me something that there was also too the confident booster, because I know I played well. And he said, Mike, he said, listen, be totally honest. He said, we cannot go and represent America with 11 black guys. He said, we can't. Now, Mullen was legitimate and should have been there. So he said, we can't do that. He said, so we're gonna break up the team, and the team is gonna be 7-5. So, you know, that right there, and I'm saying, okay, 7-5. So those 4 other guys that I knew, I was like, oh, okay, that could have been a possibility, you know, more for me. And it's bigger, you know, it's the politics, or it's the reality of the world we live in. So that was a great confident booster. And I knew these other guys from, like, just to give an example, like Barkley dominated.
Yes.
And I know he's going pro. So I'm like, wow, you know, this could be a thing. And I'm looking at these guys, and I'm like, you know, I held my own. I succeeded in some fields. And then I also knew I had a long way to go, because I tell you, I saw Antoine Carr. Antoine Carr had got drafted by Detroit the year before. He went and played in Italy. So when he comes back, he goes to the Olympic trials. He is a grown man. And he's looking like this is what a power forward should look like. He shot the jumper. He rebounded. He had post moves. He blocked shots. He didn't make it because Bobby Knight was upset that he used his trials for Detroit to come down to get a look at how he's doing.
Okay.
So he didn't like the fact that he was using his trials as a you know, little practice time for Detroit. And I looked at him and I said, wow. I said, I got a long way to go. But because I said, he has the complete game. And I'm a good rebounder. Yes, I can score, but he does everything. And he knew how to play. And his body was completely different than mine. You know, he was developed. And I said, wow, you know, that was a good thing for me. It was a great confidence booster. Again, the hardest I ever worked. And it was great motivation that I still had a tremendous upside. I had nowhere near peaked.
And with that being said, where was you at on draft night?
Draft night, I got hurt my senior year at GW. I got a turf toe. So I come back, we're running suicides at a 6-hour practice. And I turn, press off, running suicide, hurt a pop, end up having turf toe.
Okay.
So my senior year, at that time, I was about 2 games past the redshirt deadline.
Okay.
So I couldn't redshirt. So I didn't practice. I worked out with the swim team at GW. So I got in the pool, did the swim team workout, keep in shape. And I couldn't get over this turf toe. I tried playing in the soft cast, nothing. And then my grandmother gave me her old remedy. She was like, listen, you go get an old pillowcase, you know, cut it up in some strips, right? He said, I want you to soak your foot in some Epsom salt. Yes. Yeah. I soaked the foot. Then she says, go get some turpentine. So the only turpentine I've known is the turpentine that's the paint remover. So they have a turpentine that they sell at the pharmacy, you know, that actually smells the same, but it's more like an ointment turpentine. So she says, pour that up soak the rags from the pillowcase in the turpentine. Soak your foot, warm water, Epsom salt. Then tie the wet rags around your big toe, tie it up, sleep with that. So, as the course I'm sleeping, it's going to dry out and everything. So, turns your foot a little whitish, just the same way,
Right.
turpentine does. So, and she explained to me that'll draw out the soreness.
Okay.
And the Epsom salt was for the inflammation and everything. So the remedy, it worked.
Yeah.
So now I'm able to get mobility. It wasn't back to 100%, but I had mobility in it now. So I went to a point for about a month at GW that I wasn't practicing. I was just playing in games.
Okay.
Because I would still get a little bit of a flare up after I played in the game. So they was trying to limit the minutes instead of me just having this extra practice. So my nickname was the new Washington Monument at GW. So they wrote an article about the Washington Monument is wobbling because I didn't have a good base.
Yeah.
And then I told them about grandma, and the Washington Post wrote a piece about my grandma.
That's all right. Yeah,
and it was cool, so I framed it up for her, and she had it, on her wall till she passed. That her little remedy from down south with the herbs or whatever was able to, get the grandson back moving on the court. So that was a good thing. And I forgot why I actually went over it, was telling you.
Oh, no, because you're just talking about as far as ultimately getting drafted or what have you. You just claimed your senior year.
I dropped draft status.
Okay.
Because I didn't play a lot, my senior year. And that turf toe had made Jack Lambert retire from the Steelers. And so my stock, dropped. So I went from, they were talking about before, late first round after Olympic trials type thing. And I ended up getting drafted in the third round. So I wanted to go to the draft. So this agent, he told me, he says, "Oh, Mike, most of them up in the draft is, who's going to be the lottery pick in the green room, because this is the first year of the lottery."
Okay.
Patrick Ewing, the Knicks. And I'm like, I still want to go. So just give me a ticket. I'm up in the stands. I wasn't back in the green room in an area. I go with my mom and my dad, and we go there. So they're going through the draft, and I hear Mike. It ended up being like Smirk. Okay. Then Michael Britton went to University of District of Columbia, high flying guy. So it went Michael and Britton. So it's first round is over, second. So I get picked in the third, right? So my point was, I'm hearing the mics. Yes. Even a Mike B type thing, but it wasn't me. I get drafted by the Bulls. So we catch the path to train back home. And I'm thinking too, that is my motivation, because I knew from the year before they were talking first round. Now I dropped down to here. That has nothing to do with my ability or skills. So I'm thinking the Bulls gave me a chance. They see the kind of diamond in the rough. I'm going to go out there and perform, not to let them down, and also to show everybody else too, that passed over me. Yes. So at one point, I remember Paul Pierce, I think he went 14th from Kansas, and he said, "My goal is to bust those other 13." Yes. Pass me by. And I can relate. I had to smile when I heard him say that, because I can relate on, wasn't as high as pick as him, but I can relate on the fact of that motivation that, people passed you over. And you said, "I'm going to show you." So, that's what happened. The Bulls drafted me, and very fortunate, and went on from there. Yeah, Bulls locker room. You have all kind of players, and you have a certain individual in the locker room there. So how
How was that for you? Again, it's your job. It's something you grew up ultimately loving and everything else here. But you just is it starstruck or you like I got a job to do?
Well, you know what? This is what happened. I know Jordan because we're at camp together
Right.
at
Five star. Yeah.
at 16.
Hmm.
So I bring that up also. And I get drafted by the Bulls. We couldn't come to term with my contract. And I went over to play on a like an all-star traveling team
Hmm.
with from Greg Hines and from Montclair,
Yes.
Jimmy Miller. We go over on the team and we go play in Spain, in Italy, in Switzerland. Craig Robinson
Craig Robert. Yes.
team, and I get an offer to play in Italy.
Hmm.
So I'm like, wow. Now it's like, kind of real. I already get drafted by Bulls. I get an offer. So I call Krause, Jerry Krause, the GM now. And
Hmm.
he wasn't, I call him and I say, listen, Jerry, this is kind of like what's going on. And they want to guarantee me, this money playing in Italy. And he says, oh, Mike, we don't have a spot now because there's only 12 guys.
Hmm.
He said, I'm trying to trade David Greenwood to open up a spot for you. But
Hmm.
David Greenwood had tore his Achilles and no one wanted to see him play. I mean, no one wanted him until they saw him play
Right.
in preseason. And preseason is during October.
Hmm.
So this is September that I'm over there. So I'm over there in August, the beginning of September, and then this team gives me off. And so I told him, I said, well, you know what, Jay? I'm going to go and I'm going to sign with this team. And he says, that's no problem because we also keep your rights because we drafted you. They had the rights for 2 years. I said, I'm going to do this. So I signed with them and we can, I come back home, JFK, get all my stuff, fly back to Italy, and I'm over there and I'm playing. So then Krause calls me. He
Hmm.
calls me around Halloween time. And he says, we traded David Greenwood. So we got a spot. And I said, I can't. I'm under the contract. They've been good to me. So he says, I understand. So now Oakley, was there.
Right.
Jordan, he's already dealing with, he done had a year, if you watch The Last Dance, with the guys he felt was a little bit more knuckleheads from Orlando Woolridge and had different things going on.
Hmm.
It wasn't as competitive or as serious as he was or wanted him to be. So I'm playing my year in Italy, got success. Now Krause calls me in March, and says, it was a Monday. He says, what uniform number you want to wear Friday?
Mm.
And I said, oh, he's calling me to come back. And I said, Jerry, because at that time, I think Jawan Howard broke his jaw. Dave Kazine had a broken pinky.
Hmm.
And Orlando Woolridge was like MIA. So they needed bigs. And I was like, and it was like, great. I'm like, all right, I'm going to the league. The next week, we were starting the playoffs in Italy.
Okay.
So I said, I said, Jerry, I said, listen, that's great. That's beautiful. And I said, but we're going to the playoffs. And I've been with them all year. They've been with me.
Hmm.
You hear stories of your paycheck being late overseas, which happens. They made all my payments on time.
Okay.
So I said, I'm not leaving them high and dry. And we're going to the playoffs. But I promise, when it's done, I'm coming back to the Bulls.
Hmm.
So we went, made the playoffs, ended up losing in the second round. I come back home. I end up signing a 3-year deal with the Bulls.
Mm.
And Krause tells that story to young people in the future that he was, recruiting. And he talks about my integrity.
That's
and
right.
The fact that, hey, I signed my name, I gave him my word, I made a commitment, and I didn't jump for the golden ring that was somewhere else. And, I just did it because I felt that was the way I was raised. And it was the right thing to do. And I didn't realize that it had that kind of impact on him, that he passed on that story, to other future NBA players. So, Krause and I always had a special relationship, even though I would laugh with Jordan because Jordan didn't get along with him as much.
Right.
Scottie Pippen. And I was like, that was, that's your battle.
That's
and
right.
And why you feel that way with you. And I hope you understand why I feel that way about him with me, because, my experience with him was different than yours, and it was a good one for me. So
interesting. And I just saw Charles Oakley on something. He was talking about yourself and him being Michael Jordan's protector here, off the court and on the court there is protector here.
It is funny, MJ, we knew early on, and I knew, but besides knowing him at 16, that he was special.
Okay.
And, special, first of all, good guy, and special with his abilities. And he had a work ethic that I'd never seen at that point on someone that had that much talent.
Got you.
Because how you're good, things come easy. And you don't have to get an effort because you're already better, than the other. He had a whole nother level that was almost like an obsession, that his drive was completely different, and so I saw that. So when we were together, we would, be at practice, setting screens. I realized early on, and I said, how can I make my niche here? Because I scored in college, always was a rebounder because I get pleasure out of rebounding, on something, because you could have a situation that you may not be able to score the bucket, you're having a bad night shooting, but you could always play defense and rebound.
That's right.
So I prided myself on that. And then also I'm playing there with Oakley. And I see how relentless he is at rebounding. And so that drove me, also every day. And I look at, and I said, they don't need me to score here because we got veterans that can score and we got MJ. And I said, what can I do to carve out my niche? And I'm a rebound. I said, I'm gonna make sure I get him open.
Okay.
So I'm gonna be the best screener. That I'm gonna lay that body, get him open, and make his job easy. So we took a liking, from that. Oak does the same thing and rebounds, and so we were like, oh, we got to make sure he's our bread and butter. The people coming, we playing Christmas Day on TV and everything. Yes. We playing on that because of him. So, we fighting against Detroit. We got to make sure that we protect him. And then MJ said, listen, if you get a fine, he said, don't worry, I got you.
Yeah.
So that's all I needed.
Yeah, I need this money in my pocket. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I don't have to come out my pockets. I'm on that rookie money. Yeah, I don't have to, get that back up. I said, we got you. Don't worry about it. But we used to, because, Detroit, of course, yes, you're competitive, but Detroit was a team that was dirty. So they're saying their job was, if we take out the Bulls' best player in Jordan, and we may lose a Lambeer or Mahorn or James Edwards or Sally, they don't carry the same value on Detroit as Jordan does with us on the Bulls. So if we get that fight going and they get 2 ejections, we got the upper hand because they lost their best player. So Jordan made sure that when it happened, he stepped off. Okay. And then, Oak, myself, that was, all that. We'll go ahead and handle that. You don't have to worry about this one right here.
Yeah. Real quick, and not to make this about Jordan, but one thing I did want to ask: were you around for that 63 night, this 63-point game?
No, I wasn't. I was actually in Italy.
Okay.
And this is what I would have been back for that. Because it was the Celtics and it was getting ready for the playoffs.
Got you.
And so, I watched it and I'm like, he's unreal. Because what he did, you really, it's hard to stop him because he just feels that I can get my shot off and I'm going to make it. And when you look back at history, I know the last time I looked, I saw the only two guards that shot more than 50% from the field was George Gervin and Jordan. So Jordan wasn't that volume shooter, like when you see the day of a Harden.
Yes.
Even, Kobe was a volume shooter. No, he was efficient. And like I said, it was just him and George. Maybe that has changed, now, with guys, but at the two guard spot. So, Jordan, I remember we sat on the bench and he did back-to-back 50s. He did that on the Knicks. I remember him 18 points in a row he scored at the end of the game. Yeah. He did what he needed to do to carry his team. And so you just knew that, and he felt that every shot was going in.
Yeah.
And if he missed, it wasn't because you defended him well. It's just because he missed and he made the adjustment. So he was, when I was on the Bulls too, I caught myself also with the best seat in the house, being a spectator and looking at him and also the other guys that's now at the end of their career that I got a chance to play against Dr. J.
Yes.
I got a chance to play against Kareem. And I'm looking at Dr. J was on my wall in East Orange in my bedroom, and I'm getting a chance to play against him. And then I'm coming in the era of your Magic, Bird, Dominique to go along, with that group. I ended up getting traded. Once I went to Utah, I got traded for Kelly Tripucka.
Another Jersey guy, yeah.
I'm like 13, and I go to a high school game, and it's East Orange, Bloomfield. And I'm looking at this atmosphere. EO, Bloomfield, white, black,
right,
crowd. Right. And Kelly gave EO like 52. And I'm like, this guy is coming across, his teammate inbounded the ball. He came across half court, shot it, made it. And I'm like, this is amazing. And I told him, I said, now I end up getting traded for you. He was my first exposure to intense high school basketball game.
Okay.
Seeing that game. And for him to perform and did what he did, I thought he was like unbelievable. I'm looking at like, oh my goodness. And he's in high school. And, I ended up later on, we got traded for each other. That's how I got to Utah and he got to Charlotte. And so we laughed about that because we were both on TV3.
TV3, yes.
Yes, with Bruce Speck. He was there. So yeah. Kelly called in and I was actually on, in studio and to talk about that. He probably remember he had 52 against EO. But he didn't know that this 13-year-old was in the stands watching him, and the impression that I had and how great a player he was. And he carried that into the pros, 50-some points, with
all-star, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, and from his family history. So it was, I get a chance, my career overlapped nicely that I get a chance to see those Hall of Fame legends that I grew up admiring. Than playing with that current group, because everyone loved Magic and Bird, that transition to NBA to what it is today. And then at the end of my career, I got a chance to finish up in Phoenix, and I played with Steve Nash and Jason Kidd.
Yeah.
And besides the majority being in Utah with Stockton and Malone, so I was fortunate to be with a lot of Hall of Famers and be a piece of their careers also.
Speaking of Utah, let me just out of curiosity here, in practice, guarding Mark Eaton, like you're tall, but he's tall.
Oh yeah, 7'4". I got a picture downstairs on my wall that my kids are amazed at because I'm on the Bulls and I'm guarding Mark Eaton, and I'm kind of bent, got my forearm, and I kid you not, that the top of my head is at his armpit. So
Yeah,
my
yeah,
kids are like, because they know my height, and they're
mm,
like, Dad, you're under his shoulder.
yeah.
You know, it just happened to be, but it's a crazy picture. But yeah, Mark is big. And you know, I gave him the nickname the wall because
Mhm,
when he stood there and put his hands up, he didn't have to jump. And
mhm,
people would come down the lane, hit him, and slide off of him like something
mhm.
from a Tom and Jerry, a cartoon.
Yeah.
But you know, that every day, I was there the majority of my career, 5 years, you know, going against him and
Mhm,
made sure that you had to shoot your shot with a lot of art because he's, you know, blocking it, you
mhm,
know, going against Carl, you know,
mhm.
from his work ethic. And, you know, you know, I talk about Jordan on the floor. Carl was the weight room guy
The
that
weight
week.
room. Okay.
You know, I went with him and he did 8 hours in the weight room. I stopped at 4. At lunch, I didn't go back. I'm
Yeah.
like, it's not that many weights that I need to be lifted, but that was him.
Mhm.
You know, and then I have a Stockton that being the little guy up in there, and he was actually my roommate in the Olympic trials. Once
Wow.
we went from the 68,
Mhm,
my roommate was Michael Cage. Then Michael Cage,
mhm,
you know, didn't make it to the 32, and then they ruled Stockton and I.
mhm,
So, you know, when I got to Utah, I asked him, I said, you remember we was roomies?
mhm.
And he was like, oh yeah, you know, because he was a Washington guy,
Yeah,
you know,
Gonzaga. He
in
went to
New
Gonzaga.
York.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, completely different. That was probably, matter of fact, I doubt very seriously, I probably was the first black guy he roomed with.
Mhm.
He was the first white guy I roomed with.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so we're
Mhm.
able to cross across the country, cultures,
That's right.
you know, and we had in common, we were Catholic. And
Mhm.
so, you know, we talked about, you know, religion, confirmation, and talked about ball and just getting to know each other. And that's also the beauty of sports
That's right.
because it allows you to cross cultures, religions, habits, skin colors, everything, and learn about people as people, you know, and not looking from what you heard about them or stereotypes. So, um, you know, basketball has been a great blessing to me too, you know, because of that also.
Nah, definitely some life parallels when you talk about sports
Mhm.
and life. It definitely a lot of similarities as you just stated here. What kept you going in regards to you played a whole lot of years, whether it was in the NBA or you went, across seas. What just kept you going?
You know, I love basketball.
Okay.
I just, I love the camaraderie. I love the competitive nature.
Hmm.
I love the athletic part of the cardiovascular, you know, getting out there doing something, moving.
Okay.
And I love ball. So I still play today. Now I'm doing more 4-on-4 half court, you
Yeah.
know, rather than the, you know, the full court thing. But I just love to get out, run, shoot, and have fun. So I'm your true kind of like basketball junkie. You know, Jordan had in his contract the love of the game clause that he could play.
Mm-hmm.
I played all the time and I never told anyone. Like I didn't tell the Bulls. I'm playing on the blacktop. I used to
Yeah,
go,
yeah,
I
yeah.
used to go from they say the Branchwood Park,
Hmm.
we got to leave. Elmwood, somebody playing.
Hmm.
Orange Playground down from the White Castle up on
Yes.
Central Avenue,
Hmm.
they got a game. So I got my shoes on. I'm playing sometime in cutoffs. I'm just out there. I enjoy playing. And
Yeah.
so that's what kept me going.
Hmm.
And at the end of my career, I got tired of the travel
Okay.
because that NBA grind of 41 games on the road, flying, hotel, you know, hotel food, you know, that, you know, took its toll, especially when you now have kids,
Yes.
because now it's more time away from them. I had little ones. So that was something that I looked at. And at the end of my career, I went to play um, back in Italy and in Spain because that's set up more like the NFL. I'm only playing one game a week,
Okay.
playing on the weekend, sometime two. but all the other time I'm at home and I'm practicing, and I love to practice. So that was ideal, that I'm able to practice all the time and really not have that, kind of travel from hotel to hotel. But the love of the game, and fortunate enough being healthy, that I wasn't in pain and hurting,
hmm
allowed me to continue for the, what I had, for the longevity that I had.
Wow. Wow. And then speaking of which, like speaking as the love of the game, what have with basketball, what sticks with you to this day that you got from basketball as far as your life and how you navigate?
Well, the hard work pays off. And then
hmm
also that I never was, I never was satisfied. So
Okay.
I always looked at that I can get better, I can add pieces, I can learn. So I wasn't that hard-headed person that thinking I know it all, or my game is at a certain level that I've arrived to the NBA and I don't have to continue.
hmm
Once I arrived to the NBA, my goal was I need to stay here,
Yes.
because now this is a job.
hmm
So if I can do this and get paid well, I can set up my family
hmm
and help for the future. So I might as well put it in now and don't worry about, I need to be hanging out. I'm back home, doing, no, I was like, I need to put the time in. I'm gonna come back and see everyone, but I need
hmm
to continue to get, to get better, because my window is so small.
Yes.
That pro life is
That's
small.
right. That's right.
And again, you got 12 guys on the team. You're drafting 2 every year. So that rotation, at one point, everyone is going to be in it unless you're the
hmm
franchise guy.
hmm
And when I saw when they tried to trade Dr. J, and I'm like, oh, this is my idol,
Yeah.
and you trying to trade Julius? I'm like, anybody's touching.
Anybody. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So at one point, I always joke, I say, my first game in the NBA was actually the beginning of my retirement, because it's going to have an end.
hmm
I just don't know when it is.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But, so that, is what I learned. And I carried that, being on a team, working together, into everyday life. So now that helps me when it comes down to business, relating to people, that it's about team. It's not always about you. You have to understand where your colleagues are coming from, because they don't have the same path or background as you.
Right.
So you have to be more open-minded, compassionate, and understanding. And sports, basketball, helped teach me all of that. And it also with the discipline, because with anyone, you have days that you don't feel good, you don't feel like getting up, to get the same maximum effort or work. But in basketball, I had to, because I had practice. It was my job, and it held me accountable for my efforts.
hmm
So, it gave me way more life lessons than just the glory of putting the ball through the hoop.
No, I had to. I had to for you to stay with it and for you to love it. Because to love it, it's hard work to love, whether it's
Yes.
basketball, marriage, whatever. So of
Oh,
course,
yeah.
yes, absolutely,
Yep.
absolutely.
Sacrifice, hard
Yes,
work,
yes.
and definitely being on the basketball, being on a team sport, also that it's about a team. You make sacrifices and
Yes.
adjustment, and not all the way about you. And as you said, marriage, dealing with your kids,
Mhm.
everything, is definitely, learning.
Nah, nah, definitely. Yeah, you got a few more minutes.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Cool, cool. So, I'd like to put people on the spot here on the back and all of this stuff. Some random questions, some not so random here, if that's all right with
Okay.
you. Cool, cool. Obviously, being East Orange, Newark guy here, whenever in Jersey, you prefer the Parkway or the Turnpike?
No, I'm sorry. Hit that with me again.
Whenever in Jersey, do you prefer the Parkway or the Turnpike?
I prefer the Parkway.
Parkway.
Yes.
Block party or the club?
Um, Club.
Club.
Yes,
Speaking
Zanzibar back then.
All right, speaking of which, obviously being Jersey North guy here and down in DC here, house music or go-go?
Okay, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go with the house music. My first introduction was the Go-Go down in DC.
Right.
And I was like, oh yeah, it sticks with you, but everything sounds the same.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I could deal with it, but I'm a house music guy.
Cool. Twitter or Facebook?
Twitter, because I don't have a Facebook actually. So that tells you right there.
All right. Two old movies here, one older than the other here. Hoosiers or The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh?
Fish That Saved Pittsburgh.
Yeah, as soon as you said Dr. J earlier, I was like,
there you go. You got a doctor, you got Bernard King.
Yeah.
And listen, Julius had a Rolls Royce in that movie. And that was my car. I was like, oh man, I want a Rolls Royce. I want a Rolls Royce. So yeah, The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh by far. And I'll tell you the funny thing about that, by being in Atlantic 10, Duquesne is in
Pittsburgh. Yeah.
And they played in that arena.
Mm-hmm.
So the Civic Center in Pittsburgh was the way they shot The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh. And I actually got a chance to play there. So, my life was full circle on that.
Yeah. Speaking of the roles, your most favorite car you ever purchased?
A Mercedes-Benz. So my first car I ever bought was a 500 SEL. I never had a car in high school, never had a car in college. I'm playing over in Italy, and they give you a vehicle, and I couldn't drive stick, manual. And so I said, listen, I got to have it, and it got to be big enough for me. So I was able to buy that Benz. And since the team in my contract had to give me a car, they actually footed half the cost.
Okay.
And so that car I shipped it back to Newark, in the Port Newark, and then had to get the things, converted up to US standards and everything. So that was my first car. So I had a 500 SEL at 22. So, by far that's my ride.
Oh, so you pulling up the branch book looking good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, pulling up looking good. Also looking over, making sure. I'm like, But so I did that. But I tell you, most of the time when I did go, I'm riding with my boy because we all piling in because the team. But that was the car. We were going to ride up 280. I can say it now. Hitting 110. Something just
you gotta open it up. Yeah, you gotta open it up.
Oh yeah. And it was a lot of fun. But yeah, that Benz always holds a special place. Yeah.
Favorite speaking of playgrounds, favorite playground to play at?
I would probably have to say it's two there. I'm gonna go with Elmwood.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Saville. So Saville playgrounds around the corner from me. So I go down Midland Avenue, hit Dodge Street, behind the McDonald's, go to Saville. I go see Gary Garland over there, Mike Houston, and playing with those guys. So Saville was the closest one to me that I would get to all the time. Learned how to play a little tennis over there, hit it up.
The courts over there, baseball field, everything. Yeah.
Yes. So that's the most favorite.
Scott or GW?
Clifford Scott, because I'm here. My high school, I go there. We win a state championship. From the friends, from Troy, Andre Adams, Ivan Davis, Tony Jones, all of them. The list go on to great times. Having that coach now that believed and wanted to help on the individual. So that total package was the best experience that a 17-year-old, in my eyes, could have. So Clifford Scott.
You may have answered this, but if it's something additional, that's cool. Speaking of Coach Tynes, what has he meant to you?
Well, Coach Tynes, just the relationship right from the beginning. This is someone I heard about because I used to go down to Seton Hall games and, knew of him and, got a chance to meet him, talk to him as a person. And again, single family household, having a man there being able to give me some direction and input on things away from basketball
Mm-hmm.
was important to me. And probably with him, he wouldn't know that the effect he had on me compared to, he's looking at, hey, he's my coach and he's, one of my players. He had more of an effect that he probably, I mentioned it to him when they inducted me into the Newark Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
I invited him down and he got a chance to, meet my wife, my kids, my dad, my uncle. And, I told him there and then, thanked them because you affect people in life and sometimes you don't know how much.
That's right.
It's always good to let people know, you know how much, and I got a chance to do that with him. So, good person and big part of my life, even though we may talk now like every 3 or 4 months, reach out, seeing how he's doing. But it doesn't, what we have doesn't have to be every 2 weeks.
Yeah, definitely. Just pick up where you left off. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Favorite rap snack?
Rap snacks, is my buddy, James Lindsay, CEO, founder.
Mm-hmm.
We became friends back when I was on the Jazz.
Okay.
So I've been involved in rap snacks since '94 when it started.
Okay.
And, one of those, part owner, investor, but not on the everyday activity of it.
Mm-hmm.
James runs the company and, something I'm very, very proud to be involved of because it's the culture, our people started it in the hood, mom and pop stores, grind, look at having artists on the bag, being able to promote them that way, give a platform, and be able to reach out to say that it's things that you can start and do and make an effect and help people. And it's just been, and now it's grown. It's a great, great product. Finally got into Walmart, supermarket. I mean, it's grown. It's part of the culture now, for the young people. And I'm proud to just be, part of it.
Okay. You don't have a favorite one, do you? Or go?
I am. The most popular is the honey barbecue. That was the one Little Romeo's on.
Yeah.
But I am more of a plain guy.
Okay.
So we have a plain Jane chip. Back in the day that I suggested.
Okay.
Then it went away. So we just brought it back. And so now Rick Ross is on that. So he's been on for about 6 months. So the plain is that, but we got some popcorn flavors and stuff now. So I'm a little bit more into the corn products.
Okay. Nah, good stuff. And,
that we doing. And I don't know if you noticed, they had been in the media the last couple of weeks because Frito-Lay has now come in and they copied our bag and put Messi on a bag, kind of like we got Biggie, a black bag.
Yes.
So social media platform has really attacked it, saying like, oh, I can't believe Frito-Lay is biting off them, copying. Yeah. So when you look at the community is able to step in and relate to a product and see the value and relationship with it and see someone else, try to duplicate it and they get out and voice their comments on it, you've made it, a good statement in the, in community. And that's what we are right now.
Oh yeah. You know what they said was an imitation best form of flattery, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's right. So, it's no situation that we got to look at it. Oh, we're mad and going to sue you. And no, you know what? We doing things right because obviously the biggest chip company in the world is imitating. So yes. Exactly what you said. So it's something to be, flattered about.
Nah, most definitely. Played thousands of games. You got one of the best game you ever played in your life. Anything stick out when you look back on it?
Well,
at any level.
And it's amazing from the great players I played with. I've been in a situation on the Bulls that I made the last bucket for us to win the game, different things. It goes all the way back to Blessed Sacrament.
Okay.
Clinton Avenue, Newark. We're playing is the CYO League, yeah, and we won the championship, and we were the underdog. And the team that we beat had beaten us twice during the year, and we beat them in the finals. And that was the best basketball moment of my life at 13 years old. So that's the game I remember the most.
That's all right. That's for all the games that you played to go back there where it all started.
Yep.
That's
Exactly.
all right. That's all right. So this could be probably any team ever or that you've been on. Like best team you've been on.
The best team I ever been on was probably I would probably say my Clifford Scott team.
Okay.
Because we had new people. Like we didn't build it. Like we didn't go from freshman to JV to varsity. And three of us coming in, blending, which was already there, new coach, and being able to put that all together and win. And we had a lot of high expectations, and we lost the game early on, like our third or fourth game. We lost to Patterson Kennedy. But then it's like, look at that. The hype isn't, they don't live it up to the hype. We got back, we got a chance to avenge the game and beat Patterson Kennedy later on. But to go through that and end up being able to win the state championship with a mixture of people put together, very similar to Tom Brady, I think, going to Tampa Bay. He got a guy out of retirement. He ended up having Antonio Brown, having him stay at his house. He went to a new team and be able to win. I feel that Clifford Scott was like that. So that's the most, memorable, really enjoying that winning that championship with that team.
Yeah. And speaking of that era, if you keep it there for a second here, y'all, the top 5 basketball high school players from that era that you was around.
Oh, I would go Milt Wagner. By far, I would put Troy there. I think Troy from start to finish is probably one of the most decorated.
Yeah.
From state championships, points, guy. Then one that I watched, Edgar Jones.
Behringer, right?
Because, Edgar was that high flyer. I remember when I got a chance to meet him and he was going out to college. He was going to, out here where I am now, he was out at the University of Reno. I'm like, Nevada. You're going across the country. So Edgar, then from Glenn Mosley, because Glenn Mosley is right down, in the projects.
Yes.
And then I probably be, would go there. I didn't get a chance to really watch, Bradshaw and Garland like that because I was in Newark.
Okay.
So that person that I would look at next would probably be Howie McNeil. By Howie being that 7-footer that was able to handle the ball, and that way was just amazing. And then I would probably throw in, there, which was a lot older, was Mo Layton.
Yes.
So you knew about him, but the guys that I actually got a chance to watch or play against in high school, it would be that, that group right there.
Well, you put Mike Brown at, you're the best to come out of Scott.
I don't give it to myself. I'm looking at, when I watch these, I want to give mine to where the young people could be, hey, keep working hard. And you'll get it. That type of thing. So I fall in that late bloomer, keep working hard category.
Okay.
Yeah. So I never put myself on that platform. Now, once things are done and people look at and you reflect back on the career and where it went from high school and what I had in college and being able to play professionally with that longevity, then I would have to throw myself there. But from guys that I looked at and I looked at their skill set, and I said, oh, I got a long way to go. I need to work on my left hand, and I need to work on my dribble. And it can be done because I saw Howard McNeil doing it, being a tall guy.
Yes.
So, that thing, that's why I would put myself in that group. I let somebody else put me in.
No, well said here. Somebody who should have made it, however you define made it.
It was, sadly to say, it was more of them that should have made it than the ones that made it.
Yes.
Especially growing up in Newark, in East Orange, from, to Howie, from Eggers, having a longer career, Bill Willoughby, Glenn Mosley, those guys I looked at, them, Gary Garland, that maybe have done 1 or 2 years in the league. I look at, they should have been playing as long as Dr. J, because, that's how I was looking at them.
Yes.
From being, a little guy, because they were the best that I've ever seen. So you would think that they would, play longer. So it's sad to say, it's always stories and guys that had tremendous talent, and for whatever reason, things out of their control. I would say being a victim of circumstance, wrong place, wrong time.
Yes.
That unfortunately didn't have, the long career or the opportunity on just going on that next level, of the continued success. So not one individual, it's a handful, that I know, that should have been longer.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely. Great times for the skills, that he had. The unfortunate part is that you're going to the Celtics, and now you're going to the Celtics that's already loaded. That's already.
Yeah, he shared that too. He talked about, obviously, talking to him. They had Nate, Archibald, and all of them. Yeah, so no, he shared that. Yes, I remember.
So when you look back, and I used to, tell people, when you look at David Rivers, as good as David Rivers was at St. Anthony's, now you get drafted by the Lakers.
Yeah,
you're not getting the time there. You got Magic. So it's a lot of, besides skill, is being lucky too.
Yes, because
that part is out of your control where you get picked. And point guards used to get picked in Utah, and you're behind Stockton. Stockton playing the majority of the time. So you may have to blossom somewhere else if you can't, deal with only 7 or 8 minutes a game. So it's many guys that, because of things, not just street things outside of their control, that had nothing to do with their level of talent. It was just their situation just happened to be not the most, the best situation that they could flourish, at.
No, definitely. What's best part about being Mike Brown?
That, healthy husband, dad.
Yes.
And I really, enjoy the fact that, blessed with the health, that I could still get out there and do things with my kids. And now fortunate enough to have 2 grandsons. So to be able to go out, and one is 10, the other one just is about to be 1. The 110, that I could actually play basketball with him and rebound for him and show him some things. So the best part of me for me is, the health, the family, and being able to, kind of sit back and enjoy kind of the fruits of the labor over the time. So that part. And to pass it on. Because, as you see kind of here, I kind of love to talk and tell a story. So I enjoy, telling youth and trying to help them, be the, do the right thing.
Yes. Book on your life, what would you call it?
No, I'm sorry, you said which one?
A book on your life, what would you call
it? I'm kind of working on that now. And the title that I have.
We'll save the title. Won't mess, won't jam you up then.
From Newark to the NBA.
Okay.
So, I want to kind of look at it and kind of go quarters, like
Yes.
4 quarters and overtime and stuff, and do things from, growing up in Newark, elementary school, and taking that and, kind of do it that way and interject, stories, doing timeouts and all that there type stuff. So
absolutely.
That's what I would do.
At this point in your life, what advice would you give that 17, 18-year-old senior at Scott? What advice would you give that Mike Brown?
I would actually tell self to work harder, because, it's different when you look at, you be thinking you're working and you find out that when you look up, I could have did a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So I would always say, hey, look in the mirror, do the best you can, to where you saying, hey, I did my best, and not reflecting back, oh, I wish I could have done a little bit. So it'd have been that, and it would have been also nourishing relationships more.
Okay.
Because, younger, you're kind of involved in your thing. And I would nourish some relationships a little bit more, because you never know, when that's going to change.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely.
Self that.
Definitely. What would your parents say about you now?
I, would say, I would hope, they would say they're proud of me, what they have, because, both have told me that, and just to hear that, the fact that they raised a good young man, especially like on my mom's side, dad, he was there, but not in my everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
So hearing it from him is a different aspect, because he's proud of the result.
Mm-hmm.
Hearing it from my mom is more, I hope you appreciate the sacrifice that I made for you.
Yes.
And you turned out good, and my sacrifices was worth it, because you're the end result.
Mm-hmm.
So that, that's it coming from them.
Yeah. With that said, what's on deck for you here? What's on deck for you? What we got going on?
Hey, well, I tell you, now it's my youngest is in college.
Okay.
And she plays at the University of California, San Diego.
Yes.
She's the hooper.
Mm-hmm.
We just got off the COVID year, so it was no fans. Mm-hmm. So was actually able to get down this year to see her play.
Yes.
So want to do that even more, the wife and I, next year. And so just to be able to, to see her perform. I got the grandkids.
Yes.
My son, he plays basketball in Italy, and he's going to have his first child this summer.
Good stuff.
So the time for the wife and I to travel, see kids, see grandkids, see places that we always wanted to go to, but things was on hold, going, to India. We want to get back to Africa. We got an orphanage over in Liberia.
Wow.
So we want to get back to that, and doing more social work things in the community abroad is what we're looking to, to do, and kind of, enjoy this part of our life. For everything was so much focused on family that now we get a chance to, do a little bit more traveling, especially as things open up, from the COVID. We plan on getting on the road a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. Test that relationship more. That it's just you and her now. The kids can't. They no buffer. There's no buffer.
That's right. They don't like, oh, I got this game, I'm going to practice. No, I'm here. But we in each other's face. So yeah.
Yes, most definitely. Mr. Brown, it's interesting, that little round thing with the spalding across here is giving you a life that you probably never thought of, or just just traveling, seeing the world. But it didn't define you here. And I think you even talking to me and having a Clifford Scott jacket behind you here says it all. Like, you haven't forgotten where you came from.
No, not at all. Because Newark East Orange is what molded me.
Yes.
That laid that foundation. And people ask me, I said, I wouldn't change anything. And Newark's a rough place.
Yes.
I said, I wouldn't change anything on where I grew up, because had great childhood. Um, you had fights and run-ins. That's part of being a kid.
Hmm.
But wouldn't change anything there. And it made me really that foundation of what I am today, especially on perseverance.
Yes.
When it comes to obstacles, some people, depend on how they grew up, it's easier to lay down.
Hmm.
It's easier to avoid it, quit, push it aside. That was never, in my nature, in my character. And that started, from Brick City there.
Most definitely. Most definitely. And I just want to say thank you because, again, this has been an honor, again, from watching you on TV and now have an opportunity to just sit here and talk to you, to hear a small bit of your world. Like I said, I'm just taken back and, like I said, just overly excited and just it's in me. I'm not the jump up and down kind of person, but I'm excited and just like you don't know just how delighted I am just to have this opportunity. And I appreciate you squeezing me in here. And I know life is all over the place, but you found time to sit here and talk and share a little bit of your world here. I just thank you so much, Mr. Brown. I really appreciate it.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you, for your platform. You're doing, good things there. It makes me proud to see what you're doing. You're out there, you're doing your thing, you're involving, people, and you're doing what you love to do.
Yes.
And I tell you, in life, a lot of people don't do what they love to do. They do things that they have to do, to make ends meet. But you're doing something you love to do, and thanks for having me on. And I just wish you much success and continued growth and touching people. And I appreciate you giving me the platform to share my story.
Uh, Likewise, Mr. Brown. It's a small world. I mean, as you said, you
Yeah.
met that gentleman in Taiwan. Never know, we might run across somewhere in person too. So no,
Oh,
thank you.
and I gotta get you some rap snacks too. Yeah, give me your address.
Oh, most definitely, most definitely. I mess with the Ross ones. I mess with the Ross ones.
Oh, okay, there you go.
I'm a plain chip guy. I'm a plain chip guy.
Okay, all right.
No, definitely. You be well, and I appreciate everything, Mr. Brown.
All right. Thanks for having me, man.
No, definitely. Take care.
Okay.
All right. Wow. Watching Mr. Brown, Mike Brown on TV there was the Bulls, Jazz, but just even knowing prior to that, East Orange, Newark, what have you here, just see his journey, still smiling, just having fun with this as far as with the family and everything else, business ventures, what have you. I mean, it's all good. That's just how we do us from my neck of the woods here. With that being said, I'm just gonna step away from this. I put my hand over my heart. That means I feel you. Yeah.